Hey y'all, HH-BlueDynamite here. The number 2 has been blue for a My Hero Academia video after quite a while. Yeah. My freaking bad. But I'm here now, and before I continue, let me just say, as you can see on this little clip, slide, that prepare for spoilers for any anime watchers out there who has yet to see, like, at this point in the series. Although I would say some of the things I'm about to bring up will probably be brought up in season 5, I would believe, which is coming up this March, I would think. Wait, today's March. Today's March. Well, what year? I mean, not what year. I think it's supposed to come out today. Holy crap. Well, well, well. Well, not in English dub terms. But before I go off on a tangent about season 5, which I think is coming out today, at least the first episode, let's get on with the superpowers that are introduced in this series, which is, I mean, it's paramount when it comes to shounen manga. Quirks. Quirks, or kosei in Japanese, is a term to describe the special abilities that most of humanity has gained in the series. It is believed by many to be the next stage in human evolution. The Japanese word kosei means individuality. The kanji for ko could mean individual and sei could mean the nature of something, when used as a suffix. As for the word quirk, by definition, it means a peculiar behavioral habit. Other synonyms would include an oddity or eccentricity. I probably mispronounced that. Oopsie. Historically in the series, quirks were called meta abilities, or Ino. And I'm not talking about Ino Yamanaka. The kanjis to make Ino means different ability together. According to Google Translate, at least. Probably not the best source of information. The kanji I means different and no means function or talent. The word meta originates from Greek meaning with, across, or after. By definition, when used as a suffix, more comprehensive or transcending. You could say that meta abilities can be called transcending or transcended abilities. It is unknown how long quirks have been around, but it is safe to assume that they started to appear at least 80 years ago prior to the start of the series, as Inko Midoriya, the main character's mother, is stated to be a 4th generation quirk user. There's also a character with a life force quirk that granted him a long lifespan, with the current age of 120 plus years old, and he's still alive. We actually don't know when the main story even takes place, though in the anime there is a date on Izuku's provisional license and it read 20XX. So it at least takes place in the 21st century. I'll probably go more into depth about the year in another video, though I like to headcanon that the year when Izuku and All Might met was 2014, the year when the manga was first publicized. The first quirk was the luminescent baby, who glowed a brilliant light since birth. That makes me wonder how its parents reacted to finding their child glowing like a nightlight. I mean, we do see the dad's reaction, and he was surprised to say the least. As for the mom, we have no clue. Though, seeing how people with quirks were being treated during this time, I wouldn't be surprised if the parents up and abandoned the baby. When quirks started to grow in numbers, so did the chaos that ensued as the higher officials struggled to come up with the solutions to handle this. People with quirks were seen as freaks, monsters, abominations of nature, sort of like what happened to the mutants in the X-Men universe. During this time of unrest, a villain emerged from the shadows to rule Japan. That man was called or at least he called himself by his own quirk, All for One. He became the country's leader from the shadows during this crisis, though this bit of history that such an overlord existed was seen as a rumor up towards the modern day as a way to cover up such a dark history. Decades pass, and now roughly 80% of the human population has a quirk. At this point, quirks have been thoroughly researched and better understood. In some cases, a child's quirk can manifest as early as the moment they're born, though for others it's usually around the age of 4. Because quirks are connected via genetics, some people's bodies are made for their quirks. One example being Rikido Sato's sugar rush quirk, which grants him strength depending on how much sugar he consumes. For anyone else, this could lead to dangerous diabetes, but not for Sato, as his body is made to handle his quirk. There are some other cases where a person is affected by their quirk by certain means. Ochako Uraraka experiences motion sickness from using an anti-gravity quirk on herself, as well as exertion? Is that the word? of using her quirk over a period of time. And Shota Aizawa suffers from dry eye despite his quirk being eye-based. Then we have characters who are completely incompatible with their quirk, like Yuga Aoyama, as his neighbor laser quirk would leak out if he isn't wearing a specially made belt due to a birth defect. In an extremely rare case, animals can develop a quirk, although at this point, the only known animal is Nezu, Yuei's principal. Since then, we have yet to see another animal with a quirk, though such an idea would be it would be cool to see that in the future of the story, though at this point at chapter 304 or 3, 4 is supposed to come out today. I haven't really read it yet, but as of now we have yet to see another animal with a quirk. A Quirk Factor refers to someone's physical and genetic traits that makes up their quirks. This includes the primary quirk power, as well as other biological mechanisms that allow said primary power to function properly. The quirk factor doesn't get mentioned much in the story, but it can be assumed that it's probably an added gene to the cells of the body. A quirk frequency refers to the rarity of certain classifications. One of the common classifications include gigantification, which pro-hero Mount Lady possessed, as well as the villain she defeated in the beginning of the series. The other classifications, such as warp and regenerative, are very rare, unfortunate in this kind of world, as healing quirks would be very useful in certain situations. As mentioned earlier, quirks lie in the genes, so it can be passed down from parent to child. In most cases, the child will inherit the quirk of either parent or a mixture of both. In rare cases, a child could gain a quirk that's entirely different from either parent. An example of this is Tomura Shigaraki's decay. I'm not sure if we learned of all of his family's quirks, but we do know that his grandmother, Nanashimura's quirk was float. Something way different from decay. Because of this, quirk marriages were practiced as to create stronger quirks. A major example of this is Endeavor's Hell Flame and Rei's Ice quirk to create Shoto Todoroki's half hot, half cold quirk. Now, something like this poses a problem, or gave life to a theory about future strong quirks, and that theory is called the Quirk Singularity Theory. Theory was first mentioned by Seiji Shishikura in chapter 166 of the manga, or episode 17 of the anime's 4th season. It was a concept postulated by Dr. Kyodai Garaki about 70 years ago. The theory proposed the idea that with each generation brings about much stronger quirks that would eventually be too much for the welder to handle. When Garaki brought this forth, he was met with mockery and was ostracized because of it. It isn't until the modern era that the theory started to gain notoriety and a cult following as early signs of the theory was beginning to show in the fourth generation, but was still looked down upon. Makes sense in a way as we have characters like Inko Midoriya, who I mentioned earlier is a fourth generation quirk user. Though her quirk isn't that strong, the ability to levitate small objects to herself. I would like to think that at some point, quirks would become very powerful, but at that point, humanity would probably have evolved to handle it. As I said earlier, that some people's bodies are made for the quirk, and it may depend on what type of quirk it is. Speaking of, there are three different types of quirks: emitters, transformation, and mutants, and at least one subtype: accumulation. Emitter-type quirks come in a variety of different abilities, though one thing in common that they have is that they don't do major alterations to the body, like transformation and mutant types. Transformation-type quirks temporarily alters a person's base appearance, and a person will return to their base form when not using their quirks. Mutant type, though, are permanent alterations to the human physiology. You could look at a toad and still you could look like a toad and still be classified as a human being. In the case of mutant types that take on the looks of animals, they're usually able to do what said animal can do. Like say Tsuyuasui, hers being frog, which she could do a lot of things that a frog can do. From, with a long tongue and able to stick to surfaces and excrete like a very, like, an irritating substance that's not exactly, like, poisonous. I think it is poison, but all the worst it would do is cause an irritation. And take out her stomach to clean it. Lovely. Accumulation subtypes require the user to build up the needed requirement in order for their quirk to work. The BMI hero Fat Gum needs to eat and build up his fat for his fat absorption quirk to function. In fact, I think this is how Izuku played up why he could suddenly use his quirk after being seen as quirkless for about 10 years. And before I get to the next slide, I meant to bring this up, and there are some physiological changes that has nothing to do with a person's quirk, like, say, the character Tokoyami Fumikage. He has a bird head, but his quirk is shadow or dark shadow, and it has nothing to do with the fact that he has a bird head. So it's possible he probably inherited that from either one of his parents or his grandparents or great-grandparents, and that's, yeah. Remember when I said that roughly 80% of the human population has a quirk? So what about the other 20%? Simple, they're quirkless. It's revealed that when humans started to gain quirks, another evolution of sorts occurred. People with quirks have only one joint in their pinky toe. Those who still have two joints are quirkless, and I checked, we do have like two joints in our pinky toes. People with no quirk are often subjected to bullying or pitied because they seemingly lack something to make them special like everyone else. Although from like the quirkless that we see currently now. It is weird that we don't see more quirkless people in the story, at least in my opinion. If this story did take place in 2014, like I headcanoned, the human population in Japan would be 127.3 million, taking account of real life information. Also, let me just say this right now. It's been years since I've taken probability and statistics in college, so my math might be a little bit off, if not way off. I'm not sure if using the 20% margin would be accurate because of it being used for the whole world's population rather than the population of a country. Anybody with better understandings of this have free reign to correct me. Anywho, 20% of Japan's population would be Give me a minute. 25,460,000. That's a lot, I guess. So it's kind of funny we don't really get much mention with Quirkless. But then again, it is possible that we have seen Quirkless characters, we just don't know it. Like, people who look normal. Also, I know I put Toshinori Yagi here, but it is actually revealed that during his time, the Quirkless wasn't really as ostracized as they are now, because there were more of them going about. And with each generation, the Quirkless are just like steadily disappearing. So obviously, this minority will eventually just disappear. Pardon. In the world of My Hero Academia, humans have evolved to gain superpowers, and technology has improved immensely if this does take place in the 2010s. If there's one thing that hasn't changed, it's discrimination. As Present Mike put it during the sports festival, in the world of heroes, it can be hard to get popular without a flashy quirk. Right, Eraserhead? That was the worst impression ever. Of all time. Even in the U8 entrance exam, people with powerful quirks like Bakugo and Aoyama was able to destroy the robots no problem. But people like Shinso, whose quirks aren't made for direct combat, aren't able to pass to get into the Hero Corps. Granted, it is revealed that there is a button on the robots that, when pressed, the robots shut down, which would explain why some characters like Hagakure or even like Koda was able to pass. However, I don't think it is told beforehand, so the students would have to come up with a conclusion on their own, which is stupid. When you're facing gigantic behemoths ready to wreck your day and you're on a time crunch, it's better to have a quirk-like explosion or even hardening to deal with it head on. So I agree with Aizawa that it's incredibly unfair how the test was more focused on flashy, combat-oriented quirks. Although I think I have read somewhere that the entrance exam is different each year. Not sure where I heard that from. So it might have been different before, but again, it's like this test right here, that's still unfair. Furthermore, people tend to ostracize certain quirks. Let me give you a few examples. Let me ask you a couple of questions. What is considered a heroic superpower? Healing? Shielding, probably? Like you see characters like Superman with flight. Some people might, connect that with a heroic power. Pretty much anything that you could see that could save a lot of people's lives. Now, the flip side, what's considered a villainous ability? Anything involving poison? Because if you remember what, like, if you go up to Pokemon standards, more often than not, the grunts of whatever sort of villainous organization that's in the game tend to have poison types. Also, darkness, anything pertaining to the dark. Which that's funny because when you look at it, light and darkness, they're not necessarily good and evil. And the reason why I say that is because light and darkness is something that existed before the concept of good and evil. And another thing, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, blood. Blood could be one. Mind control. You could see those are being villainous. So you have someone like Hitoshi Shinso, who aspires to be a hero, but his quirk was viewed as villainous, his quirk being mind control. Same could be even said for quirks that erase quirks, like Aizawa's. I have read a lot of fanfics where Aizawa's Quirk was seen as villainous, and again, he was ostracized for it. I can't say that word for some reason. I'm kind of like, maybe it's just because at some point people's been used to his quirk by his second year in Vigilantes. But somebody just said, like, he has a weak quirk because, again, it's not flashy. It doesn't really do anything. But, yeah, in a lot of cases, it is out of a person's control. Out of the three type of quirks, mutant types get more negative views, more due to their appearance. And I think that happened with Spinner, who is a member of the League of Villains. He kind of looks like a lizard. Another one was Tsuyuasui, as she was made fun of because of her appearance, as well as another character with a mutant type quirk, Habuko. And the other issue is that some people are, in a way, they have certain compulsions due to their quirk. Himiko Toga's quirk transform requires her to drink a person's blood to take on their appearance. Because of this, Toga has like a blood fetish of sorts, a compulsion to drink blood. And instead of getting her quirk counseling, which exists, and it could be seen as controversial, maybe because of certain practices. But if you find the right person to counsel her, it would have helped her with her urges. But instead of doing all of that, her parents instead just tells her to suppress it because they are disgusted by it. Yeah, okay, sure. It works so well with anger issues, and it won't evidently erupt into a violent outburst. It's events like this is that where things are not simply in black and white anymore. Clearly, it's because of this line of thinking that could lead someone down to the path of villainy. Well, it is the person's choice at the end of the day, like it's their choice to go down a villainous path or even a vigilante path. The root of the matter lies in the fact that they were driven to this choice by other people. The UA moniker is to go beyond plus ultra, and a Quirk Awakening may occur from it. What is up with me and words? We've only seen this happening with 3 characters. All villains, go figure. And it seems to occur either during stressful situations or life or death struggles where someone goes beyond their peak limit. At first, Toga's quirk only allows her to transform into other people. During the Paranormal Liberation Front arc, her quirk awakened, allowing her to use the quirk of the person she's transformed into, such as her transforming into Ochaku Uraraka, and she's able to use her anti-gravity quirk, though to extent we're not sure. Another example, also during the Paranormal Liberation Front arc, Gretten's, I think it's how you pronounce him, Greten, Gretten, his ice manipulation quirk awakened, and he could now control the temperature of the ice. One more, and probably the most devastating example, is Tomura Shigaraki. At first, he needed his hand plus all 5 of his fingers to make contact with anything to decay. With some training, it like extended to his feet. And I think it's like through an operation. I think this happened during the war arc, where it's no, like, his decay knows no bounds anymore. He doesn't need to touch anything to cause him to decay. Although I think that actually happened when he was just a kid, which again is like, that is probably, you have to give a villain the ability to cause things to decay. That is horrifying. Well, while we do get like villainous examples of this, I wonder if we're going to see more of this in the future. Like, whose quirks, what do you guys think whose quirk is close to being awakened? I have read somewhere that One for All is kind of like that. Like, once Izuku fully masters One for All, is probably would be awakened, but who do you guys think are close to being awakened? And this is where we kind of like get to some really meta stuff, I guess. I don't know, because it's kind of freaky. Really? It is revealed, and this is actually revealed like at the end of season 4, so we're probably going to see more of this in season 5. It is revealed that the Quirk Factor also contains a person's consciousness. Whether or not this is like a genetic memory type of deal or the supernatural like spirits and the like is up in the air. Though I'm leaning towards the former, but I'm kind of having my doubts, mainly due to seeing a misty vestige of All Might, who is very much still alive within One for All with the other users. Although there is a pro hero in the first My Hero Academia movie, both it and the second movie considered canon, so. And this hero has a quirk called Spirit Possession, so I guess it's intertwined in a way. Not that it matters in the grand scheme of things, because My Hero Academia isn't that kind of shounen manga. It's not focused on the dead and the supernatural. Although the supernatural became natural, but what I mean is like, ghosts or spirits. That's not my hero shtick. That's like things like Bleach or Shaman King. I mean, One Piece kind of tackled that with the, I can't pronounce the K word, but it involves like a spirit of a ship. But like I said, it's not that kind of anime. It's not that kind of manga. So it's just more like an afterthought. Anyways, with Izuku having to obtain One for All, he soon makes contact with the previous users, even seeing their past memories. At least the first user. And I think Nana Shimura, or even All for One. This fact actually mirrors a particular phenomenon that happens in real life involving organ transplants. One example being that a person receives an organ transplant from a suicide victim and the recipient would later commit suicide themselves in the same way. Other stories include changes in personality and interests that are similar to the organ's original owner. Now, it's one of those controversial things, kind of like ghosts and spirits and the afterlife and all that, and that something like this could even happen. There's been a lot of debates, so I do wonder if something like something similar might occur here. And it kind of harkens back to what Nana Shimura said to All Might, that it's kind of romantic to, like, you're able to make contact with previous users, at least their memories and personalities. And by romantic, she means it's kind of idealistic. There even is actually a paranormal story, however you want to look at it, of a woman who had to get like a new cornea. And once she got this cornea came from a convict who was killed, I guess, by like one of his victims, like the parent of one of his victims. And since she got this cornea, she's been getting hallucinations, and she was even seeing like this convict's last moments alive. Whether or not this is like a genetic memory thing, or like it's like a haunted item sort of thing, that's like up in the air. That's up to you guys and y'all's beliefs. And it wasn't until that thing was removed, the cornea was removed, that she stopped seeing stuff like that. And in a way, that's what happens with quirks. When something similar happens, when a person is given another person's quirk under unique circumstances, it goes away when it's removed, kind of like the woman with the cornea. Although some people don't recover when given multiple quirks. becoming something akin to a lifeless and mindless husk. Probably because of like these multitude of different personalities and memories, it becomes too much for the wielder. And I said welder earlier, I meant to say wielder. Whoops. and that in turn kind of created nomus. The nomus, they carry so many different quirks in their bodies, and that they're like tethered to these memories and personalities of previous users. Now, like I said many times, I think it's unknown if it is just a memory or echo of the previous user. But One For All implies that it's much more than that. But it might be a thing that is exclusive to One For All, and that the thing is like, is there more to it? Like, is it just more than genetic thing? But that just goes on to a long existential sort of stuff, which I'm not going to get into, because again, it's like, it's not that kind of series. Like, it probably is part of, so like, a lot of other stuff in anime that really has nothing to do with the soul. Like Bleach or Shaman King. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see, and I can't wait to see more of this, because, again, we're going to see more of this in Season 5. Yes! And that's pretty much it on this video. I feel like a lot of it is just me ranting, or not really ranting, more just like going on a bit of a long, unrelated spiel about certain stuff. I'm sorry for how long this took, but I guess I was just, trying to like get my headspace in the right direction, as well as just, I get nervous when there's other people that can overhear me and all that, but that's just how I am. And I do wonder if Season 5 is out. Like, it obviously Funimation English, I don't think that is out yet, or I think I've heard somewhere, I was listening to a video, like a behind the scenes sort of deal not too long ago, that how Funimation works is that they have like a week to, like 24 hours to a week to do something, which I think the 24 hours thing is like ludicrous, but I'm not sure when we'd be expecting to see that, but I can't wait to see it. I really cannot wait, and I hope you guys cannot wait too. And please, everyone, have a nice day and go beyond plus ultra for whatever sort of struggles you guys are facing.